Hello, everybody. It's Cosmic Diva here again. Second video of today, and this one is the one I've been working on for a little while. Not because there was a lot of stuff to do, obviously. I'm just clicking through videos here, but it took a while to gather all of the information, as well as putting everything together in order, and I had stuff to do. So in this video, what I want to do is share with you guys some another one of my experiments, and this is another section of me debunking the sun buddy. So what I did was I got out in front of my camera late at night and I played around with some lights, and then I wanted to see exactly what it is my camera does. So between my iPhone and my video camera, high definition, and my still camera, a Canon 60D, I was able to collect some things, and I want to share some of that stuff with you guys. So have a look and make some decisions for yourself, and maybe even go out and try it for yourself. I think you may find that you are able to produce some very interesting results. Now, what you are looking at is some pretty interesting shots here. You're looking at a little cartoon here of some stuff that quite possibly could be going on in the sky that could be producing the images that we're seeing. Okay? Now, in this image, this one is about solar radiation management. Now, this is what this balloon is, okay? Let me read a little bit to you. You can find this on Wikipedia, okay? Solar radiation management. Projects that they've created and or are already in progress, up there working now. Solar radiation management is a type of climate engineering which seeks to reflect sunlight and thus reduce global warming. Proposed examples include the creation of stratospheric sulfate aerosols. Their principal advantages as an approach to climate engineering is the speed with which they can be deployed and become fully active, their potential, low cost, and the reversibility of their direct climatic effects. Solar radiation management projects could, for example, be used as a temporary response while levels of greenhouse gases can be brought under control by greenhouse gas remediation techniques. They would not reduce greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere and thus do not address problems such as ocean acidification caused by excess carbon dioxide. By comparison, other climate engineering techniques based on greenhouse gas remediation, such as ocean iron fertilization, need to sequester the anthropogenic carbon excess before any reversal of global warming would occur. Okay, so again, this picture is showing the proposed solar radiation management using a tethered balloon to inject sulfate aerosols into the stratosphere. Okay? So, yeah, they're spraying stuff into the atmosphere. This is what is suggested as a project. I say it must be happening now. Okay? Now, here's another interesting part in this article. The phenomenon of global dimming is widely known and is not necessarily a climate engineering technique. It already occurs under current conditions due to aerosols caused by pollution or caused naturally as a result of volcanoes and major forest fires. However, its deliberate manipulation is a tool of the geoengineer. By intentionally changing the Earth's albedo or reflectivity, scientists propose that we could reflect more heat back out into space or intercept sunlight before it reaches the Earth through a literal shade built in space. A 2% albedo increase would roughly halve the effect of CO2 doubling. Okay? So they just need to make something that, hits the market like 2%. It doesn't even have to be good. 2% is enough to shut it down by half. Okay? The applicability of many techniques, like this one, have not been comprehensively tested, even if the effects in computer simulation models or of small-scale interventions are known. Nice. There may be cumulative problems such as ozone depletion, which becomes apparent only from large-scale experiments. Various small-scale experiments have been carried out on techniques such as cloud seeding, increasing the volume of stratospheric sulfate aerosols, and implementing cool roof technology. Now, check this out. As early as 1974, there was a Russian expert by the name of Mikhail Budiko. He suggested that if global warming became a problem, we could cool down the planet by burning sulfur in the stratosphere, which would create a haze. The annual cost of delivering a sufficient amount of sulfur to counteract expected greenhouse warming is estimated at $2 to $8 billion. Nice, right? Now, let's discuss some of the side effects they have here. There may be unintended climactic consequences of solar radiation management, such as significant changes to the hydraulical cycle that might not be predicted by the models used to plan them. Such effects may be cumulative or chaotic in nature. Ozone depletion is a risk of techniques involving sulfur delivery into the stratosphere. Not all side effects are negative, and an increase in agricultural productivity has been predicted by some studies due to the combination of more diffuse light and elevated carbon dioxide concentration. If solar radiation management were masking a significant amount of warming and then were to abruptly stop, the climate would rapidly warm. This would cause a sudden rise in global temperatures towards levels which would have existed without the use of the climate engineering technique. The rapid rise in temperature may lead to more severe consequences than a gradual rise of the same magnitude. Now let's discuss weaponization, because that's written here too. In 1976, 85 countries signed the UN Convention of the Prohibition of Military or any other hostile use of environmental modification techniques. The Environmental Modification Convention generally prohibits weaponizing climate engineering techniques. However, this does not eliminate the risk. If perfected to a degree of controllability and accuracy that is not considered possible at the moment, climate engineering techniques could theoretically be used by militaries to cause drought or famines. Theoretically, they could also be used to simply make battlefield conditions more favorable to one side or the other in a war. Now let's discuss what it says here about the effect on sunlight, sky, and clouds. Managing solar radiation using aerosols or cloud cover would involve changing the ratio between direct and indirect solar radiation. This would affect plant life and solar energy. It is believed that there would be a significant effect on the appearance of the sky from stratospheric aerosol injection projects. Notably, a hazing of blue skies and a change in the appearance of sunsets. Aerosols affect the formation of clouds, especially cirrus clouds. Now, this is a short here article that also mentions cloud reflectivity enhancement. Various cloud reflectivity methods have been suggested, such as that proposed by John Latham, Stephen Salter, which works by spraying seawater in the atmosphere to increase the reflectivity of clouds. The extra condensation nuclei created by the spray will change the size distribution of the drops in existing clouds to make them whiter. The sprayers would use fleets of unmanned rotor ships, known as Fresnel vessels, to spray mist created from seawater into the air to thicken clouds and thus reflect more radiation from the Earth. The whitening effect is created by using very small cloud condensation nuclei, which whiten the clouds due to the Toomey effect. Enhancing the natural marine sulfur cycle by fertilizing a small portion with iron, typically considered to be a greenhouse gas remediation method, may also increase the reflection of sunlight. Such fertilization, especially in the Southern Ocean, would enhance dimethyl sulfide production and consequently cloud reflectivity. This could potentially be used as regional solar radiation management to slow Antarctic ice from melting. Such techniques also tend to sequester carbon, but the enhancement of cloud albedo also appears to be a likely effect. Now the next graphic you're looking at here is the dispersive solutions. And I think the picture's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to read it anyway. Why not? Several authors have proposed dispersing light before it reaches the Earth by putting a very large diffracting grating or lens in space, perhaps at the L1 point between the Earth and the Sun. Using a Fresnel lens in this manner was proposed in 1989. Using a diffraction grating was proposed in 1997 also. They suggested using a diffracting grating. This is like a little fencing or a little gate over a bulb, and that can push out light in different directions. Or again, it's like a paper filter over a light, and it covers up some parts and opens up other parts. But either way, it points the light in the direction that you'd like it to, or spreads it. In 2004, a physicist and a science fiction author named Gregory Benford calculated that a concave, rotating Fresnel lens of 1,000 kilometers across, yet only a few millimeters thick, floating in space at the L1 point, would reduce the solar energy reaching the Earth by approximately 0.5 to 1%. Really? He estimated that this would cost around $10 billion up front and another $10 billion in supportive costs during its lifespan. One issue with implementing such a solution is the need to counteract the effects of the solar wind moving such megastructures out of position. Well, All right. Isn't that interesting? Super fascinating. Now, I think in just that little bit, I think I've covered so much stuff that all of us are talking about. Is there an object covering the sun? Is there something making a sun? Is there something blocking the sun? Is there something shooting light off the sun, interrupting the sun, hanging out, having a beer with the sun? A lot of YouTube creators who are working on topics such as this one are saying that, it's something artificial up there. Is it an artificial sun, or is it a reflector or a filter or a little space gate filter that pushes the sun in the directions that they'd want? Interesting, right? Now let's talk about this next picture, a space sunshade. Yeah, or sunshield. This is a parasol that diverts or otherwise reduces some of a star's radiation, preventing them from hitting a spacecraft or a planet, and thereby reducing its insolation, which results in reduced heating. A sunshade is of particular interest as a climate engineering method for mitigating global warming through solar radiation management. Such shades could also be used to produce space solar power, acting as solar power satellites. Proposed shade designs include a single-piece shade and a shade made by a great number of small objects. Most such proposals contemplate a blocking element at the Sun-Earth L1 Lagrangian point. You can Google where the Lagrangian point is if you want to see if that has anything to do with something you might recognize. The next part of this article, cloud of small spacecraft. One proposed such sunshade for use towards that effect would be composed of 16 trillion small disks at the Sun-Earth L1 Lagrangian point, 1.5 million kilometers above Earth. Each disk is proposed to have a 0.6 meters in diameter and a thickness of about 5 micrometers. The mass of each disk would be about a gram, adding up to a total of almost 20 million tons. Such a group of small sunshades that blocks 2% of the sunlight, deflecting it off into space, would be enough to halt global warming, giving us ample time to cut our emissions back on Earth. The individual autonomous flyers building up the cloud of sunshades are proposed not to reflect the sunlight, but rather to be transparent lenses, deflecting the light slightly so it does not hit Earth. This minimizes the effect of solar radiation pressure on the units, requiring less effort to hold them in place at the L1 point. An optical prototype has been constructed by Roger Angel with funding from the NIAC. Such a group of sunshades would need to occupy an area of about 3.8 million square kilometers if placed at the L1 point. The deployment of the flyers is an issue that requires new technology. It has been proposed that this would be accomplished most easily with large rail guns or coil guns, firing a capsule containing 1 million shades into space every 5 minutes for 10 years using 20 separate launch sites. Even so, it would still take years to launch enough of the disk into orbit to have any effect. Thus, this technology should become essential. Enough time would be needed to implement it. You mean like now? Yeah. See, what bothers me is they write this stuff, and you can look this stuff up, verify it, connect the dots, but then they finish it with like, oh, we haven't done it yet. Really? Okay. Well, listen, if they put it up there and there's some space machine shooting stuff out of it, they ain't gonna tell you. They looks like they're willing to drop hints. And I think, we should be grateful for the tiny slices of cheese given, But they're not going to give you everything. They're just not gonna. So we have to read, and we have to learn, and we have to see what's real and what is absolute BS. Okay? Now, here's an interesting one. There's an article in The Guardian from 2007, January of 2007. The title, if you want to find this yourself, is U.S. Answer to Global Warming, Smoke and Giant Space Mirrors. The U.S. government wants the world's scientists to develop technology to block sunlight as a last-ditch effort to halt global warming. It says research into techniques such as giant mirrors in space or reflective dust pumped into the atmosphere would be important insurance against rising emissions, and has lobbied for such strategy to be recommended by a major UN report on climate change. Okay, there's more about the back and forth and government intervention and everyone arguing back and forth. Okay. The final paragraph of this report the likely contents of the report that they're working on have been an open secret since the Bush administration. A week after this article was published, they were going to have some scientists speak out and say that there's a 90% chance that human activity is warming the planet, and that global average temperatures will rise another 1.5 Celsius to 5.8 Celsius this century, depending on emissions. The U.S. response shows it accepts these statements, but it disagrees with a more tentative conclusion that rising temperatures have made hurricanes more powerful. They link to a U.S. document there where you can read a little bit more on it. And yeah. So, back to my video. Check it out. I went outside and I took my little light on my iPhone 6 and I took my HD camera and I said, let's see what type of flares I can produce with just using these here instruments. Now, you are looking at what I was able to produce. As you can see, I have both a convex and a concave lens, little cheap rink-a-dink pieces of glass that I bought from Amazon a while ago when I first started studying the sun buddy. So I whipped out these old lenses and decided to see what type of sun or lighting comes off of a basic lens. Now, this is not a Fresnel lens because a Fresnel lens has oftentimes shapes or grooves within it, and the grooves help spread the light, and depending on what the build and design of it is, it can also be used to focus light. A Fresnel lens, a good example of the strength of a Fresnel lens, would be the light coming from a lighthouse. If you've ever been fortunate enough to see a lighthouse, even if you saw one on TV, you know they push off a super big light, and it doesn't necessarily go everywhere. It's got a focus. It's not a straight beam, not a laser beam, but it's got like a cone outward ability to it, and it lights up the ocean. You know, maybe it catches the boats coming in, or maybe it spots jaws in the water. Who knows what lighthouses are doing today? But that is a first Earth world example of a Fresnel lens and what it can do and its strength. All right? So we can see here from my little lens. It's not a Fresnel lens, but gosh darn it, it's a lens. And I'm holding it over my iPhone's camera light. And look at all of the stuff I can catch. Isn't that crazy? Don't some of these things that I'm shooting at the camera look an awful lot like some of the stuff we've been seeing? I mean, I got orbs up there at the top of the screen. I've got some kind of green jet comet looking action going on. It looks like an artificial light. Right? I mean, but what I'm asking you to look at are the flares, because some type of flare like this has been captured by most of us, or one or two of us. Somebody on the ground has captured at least something like what I'm showing here. Okay? And this includes this new overhead sundog that people have been capturing and curious about. I believe that a Fresnel lens, or a rounded lens, or a bunch of flying little sunshades have the ability to create some of the stuff that we're looking at, if that's what's happening up there. Now, yeah, that's possible, but what's also possible is it really just could be the sun. And if they're spraying stuff into the sky to make the clouds more reflective, they're spraying stuff into the atmosphere that creates more reflectivity amongst the little water droplets of happiness gone bad, we might get some pretty funky flares and some unexplainable orbs and stuff that looks like it's flying by, and also the sun buddy. Does this mean I give up on my search for the sun buddy? Heck no, because we haven't verified this yet. And I still think somewhere deep inside my tummy, I feel like there is something that they're hiding. Yes, we have climate warming. Yes, they're making an attempt to cool things off. But at the same time, they ain't saying everything, and they're giving it to us in bits and pieces. Here's an example. I'm going to do another video on it. But if you want to jump ahead of me, if you're a creator and you're listening, please jump ahead. It'll save me some work. Did you know there's 2 moons? Now, what we're being told is 2. But if you break out a space app or an astronomy app, I use Sky Safari, which is a little bit pricey for iPad, but there are some others probably out there that go the distance and give great detail. I'll leave that up to you to find out what works for you. If you use that app and go real, deep and have a look at asteroids, you may discover we have some asteroids and we have some comets that are flying around us on a pretty regular basis. And these things flying by Earth most definitely have the ability to flash some light at us, don't they? Especially if we're losing ozone and they're adding artificial ozone. That doesn't mean it's the same thing. That doesn't mean it's not gonna, create the coverage that they're looking for. So, well, here we are. Okay. So, yeah, we got 2 moons. You can type that in, look it up. The name of the moon is Cruinthe. 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 I am going to do a video on it, but, just want to share that little tidbit with you guys. But if we got 2 moons, and here's my next question, because that one trips me out too, and I'll hopefully remember to raise that question when I make the video about the second moon. what I'd read up until I saw the article about the second moon was that our moon, the moon we know and see every night, is tidally locked into place. Doesn't move, doesn't rotate, therefore we don't see the entire big ball. Well, you know what? From the first time I took pictures of the moon till this day, I just have a whole lot of trouble believing that that thing up there is a full circle. I know you're going to say I'm crazy. I know you're going to say this chick is tripping. I get it. It sounds crazy. But as someone who's taken pictures of this thing a lot, I have difficulty believing it's a full orb until I see the full thing. And we haven't seen the full thing. I can tell you when I walk out at night, when it's not a full moon, I see half of a moon. When astronauts are taking, or when we've seen astronauts photographing the Earth from the moon, kind of don't we see like half of an Earth? Go back and look at some NASA pictures, or as I'd rather call it, the NASA CGI, but the few pictures that people are saying are authentic from the moon, they don't show a full sphere, okay? Which is interesting, okay? And the truth of the matter is, there are parts of the world that you and I are not allowed to visit. Period, point blank, can't go. You might get shot if you go. Something's going to happen if you try to go. We haven't been able to go to these places, so we can't even verify if the rock we live on is a full circle. That's just what we've been taught. Okay? So, I don't know, man. I think the question of the sun, buddy, to bring it all back around, can easily be explained away by looking at and studying the flares that our cameras are picking up. And if our cameras on Earth are subjected or can be exploited by these renegade flares, then it is absolutely possible that the cameras in outer space can have that as an issue as well. Why not? It's a glass up front of your camera that's curved. There are several lenses behind that in a lot of cases. And behind that is a mirror. And then behind that is a sensor. I'm just speaking about the cameras that I have. So you have all of these different reflecting, capturing devices all stacked within one little cone of space. And through that, we look through it and, capture an image. And between a mirror and some rounded lenses, well, I don't know, man. I don't know. You just have to look at it, study it, and make the decision for yourself as to what it is. I will say this. While you're making those decisions for yourself, let's apply common sense at all times, okay? And I think just because somebody says, hey, it's a big planet coming in, does not mean that there's a planet coming in. It doesn't mean you should pack up your life and move to some place and go live underground in a bunker. That doesn't mean that you should give all your money up to charity or donate all your money to somebody you don't know so that you can be a part of something that you think is going to save you. But if you sleep better at night doing those things, do it. By all means, do it. I hope that, you're okay with it in the long, and I hope that, none of what we're sharing or showing is creating a damaging effect for anyone. It's just the world that we live in. Correction, the galaxy we live in. And we don't really know that much about it. And the people who really know, they ain't gonna tell us nothing. They're just not gonna tell us. Okay? It doesn't help anything. It doesn't continue the advancement of anything. It doesn't profit anybody. All that stuff. So I hope you guys were not too angry at me for this flare video, but I really just wanted to show you what the possibilities are when you have a light shining into your camera, okay? And this is not just for HD cameras, this is for your camera phone, this is even for welding lenses or filters of any sort for that matter. Your camera is fighting against a combination of unknown environmental things. I don't have a better word for it. Stuff, goo, how about that? Your camera is fighting with a lot of stuff to give you a picture, and that can be obscured, misunderstood with these flares that look quite definitive, and they can be called anything. They can even be called a planet if somebody really wants to push the narrative. So yeah. Oh, also a little video here. When I was capturing the moon, I also noticed this formation of stars everyone's talking about, these planets. Yeah. So I decided to zoom in on some of them, and I got some really weird images. And it looks like one of the planets going in and out and letting off flames and blowing up and brightening up and disappearing. It's doing a dance for my camera. Bad part about it is that could be my camera adjusting at night. This could be the auto function of my camera attempting to capture and give focus to whatever it is that it thinks it's seeing, which is a tiny little planet far out. Okay. Now, I captured this the other day, so I believe that this is Mars. And you can see it flaring in and out. This looks crazy, right? Right. Isn't that wild? Now, could that be happening for real? I don't know. I'm not up there. I'm just telling you and showing you what my camera's picking up. And if I had never started researching this and someone showed me this video, I would say that this is your camera scrambling to give you a shot. I would say that unless your camera is set to manually be focused and adjusted, that it'd be very hard to believe what you're seeing, okay? I would simply tell you to don't shoot in low light like that and stop taking pictures of the sky. But because I have been focusing and studying this and learning that they are really up there doing stuff that we don't know anything about, at least until well after they're done with it, it's very hard to say what is left and what is right. So you can see here in my picture, I've got the three objects beneath the moon in my shot, which I believe to be Saturn to the left, Mars to the right, and I believe that's a star at the bottom. However, if you're seeing this in the sky, I've heard some people mention this as being a part of a pentagram or something. I haven't seen that, okay? But it sure does sound good, doesn't it? So, yeah. Well, it is whatever you want it to be, people. And if you feel like something's coming into Earth, I would highly suggest you get off the internet and go and hug your kids, hug your dog, hug your wife, hug your mother-in-law, do all that stuff. Go out, smell the flowers. Whatever it is that is on your bucket list that doesn't hurt anybody, go do it.
What he did, and you end up with this rather curious looking lens. This is the Fresnel lens. And actually you can see it's exactly what he's done. This part here is the central section of the lens, and these other segments go along here. So as you go along the length of the lens, you've got exactly the same curvature as with the big lens. But as you can see, it's much, much thinner. So it's much lighter. And also it doesn't absorb the light nearly so much. So you're going to end up with a much brighter beam of light produced by this beautiful lens. I can prove to you it has the same optical properties as the big lens using a laser pointer. So we can show that this is acting as a lens with the laser pointer. If I turn the laser pointer on, you can see that it's beaming straight through the glass here. But as they go up and down the lens, you can see that the rays are being bent to the same sort of point, the focus. So this is the action of a normal lens, which shows up quite clearly with the laser pointer. Now we can swap this for the Fresnel lens, and so hopefully if this is working properly, it should produce exactly the same effect. Again, if we fire the laser pointer through the middle, the rays go straight through. But at different angles, you can see that all the rays have been basically focused to the same point, the focus point, just like with the standard lens. Now there is some distortion, you can see when it goes into the next segment here. You get a bit of distortion. So you wouldn't want to use these lenses in a camera, for example, because you'd end up with a distorted image. But if you just want to beam out a very strong beam of light from a lighthouse, you can see that the Fresnel lens is a very good approximation to the full-size lens. In fact, it's better really, because it's so thin, it absorbs far less light. So you get a very, very nice bright beam on your lighthouse.
You just have to look at it, study it, and make the decision for yourself as to what it is. I will say this, while you're making those decisions for yourself, let's apply common sense at all times, okay? And I think just because somebody says, hey, it's a big planet coming in, does not mean that there's a planet coming in. It doesn't mean you should pack up your life and move to some place and go live underground in a bunker. That doesn't mean that you should give all your money up to charity or donate all your money to somebody you don't know so that you can be a part of something that you think is going to save you. But if you sleep better at night doing those things, do it. By all means, do it. I hope that, you're okay with it in the long, and I hope that, none of what we're sharing or showing is creating a damaging effect for anyone. It's just the world that we live in. Correction, the galaxy we live in. And we don't really know that much about it. And the people who really know, they ain't gonna tell us nothing. They're just not gonna tell us. Okay? It doesn't help anything. It doesn't continue the advancement of anything. It doesn't profit anybody. All that stuff. So I hope you guys were not too angry at me for this flare video, but I really just wanted to show you what the possibilities are when you have a light shining into your camera, okay? And this is not just for HD cameras, this is for your camera phone, this is even for welding lenses or filters of any sort for that matter. Your camera is fighting against a combination of unknown environmental things. I don't have a better word for it. Stuff, goo, how about that? Your camera is fighting with a lot of stuff to give you a picture, and that can be obscured, misunderstood with these flares that look quite definitive, and they can be called anything. They can even be called a planet if somebody really wants to push the narrative. So yeah. Oh, also a little video here. When I was capturing the moon, I also noticed this formation of stars everyone's talking about, these planets. Yeah. So I decided to zoom in on some of them, and I got some really weird images. And it looks like one of the planets going in and out and letting off flames and blowing up and brightening up and disappearing. It's doing a dance for my camera. Bad part about it is that could be my camera adjusting at night. This could be the auto function of my camera attempting to capture and give focus to whatever it is that it thinks it's seeing, which is a tiny little planet far out. And you can see it flaring in and out. This looks crazy, right? Right. Isn't that wild? Now, could that be happening for real? I don't know. I'm not up there. I'm just telling you and showing you what my camera's picking up. And if I had never started researching this and someone showed me this video, I would say that this is your camera scrambling to give you a shot. I would say that unless your camera is set to manually be focused and adjusted, that it'd be very hard to believe what you're seeing, okay? I would simply tell you to don't shoot in low light like that and stop taking pictures of the sky. But because I have been focusing and studying this and learning that they're really up there doing stuff that we don't know anything about, at least until well after they're done with it, it's very hard to say what is left and what is right. However, if you're seeing this in the sky, I've heard some people mention this as being a part of a pentagram or something. I haven't seen that, okay? But it sure does sound good, doesn't it? So, yeah. Well, it is whatever you want it to be, people. And if you feel like something's coming into Earth, I would highly suggest you get off the internet and go and hug your kids, hug your dog, hug your wife, hug your mother-in-law. Do all that stuff. Go out, smell the flowers. Whatever it is that is on your bucket list that doesn't hurt anybody, go do it. And that way, if nothing comes in, you'll at least have, done some fun stuff. And you will have made some people feel good. And you would have said all the things that you haven't said or forget to say and don't say enough. Okay? So, just to give you guys a little heads up, I have another video coming up real soon that I'm working on that is about UFOs. Ooh, possibilities. See, because now when I say UFO, I don't mean alien. I mean unidentified object flying in outer space that we don't know nothing about. I don't believe UFOs exist with aliens in them. Sorry, I just don't. But what I do believe is that they have some cool flying stuff that they haven't released pictures of, and we don't know nothing about that. So when we see these objects, we get all freaked out. Until I see some aliens step out of the ship and say nanu nanu to me, I'm not buying it, okay? But I will share some stuff I found with you guys that I think, some more questions I have. Could it be this? Could it be that? All right? So stay tuned. And gosh, if you disagree with me, hop in. Let's share. Okay? Because right now my eyes are not believing what I'm seeing. And I'm calling this a flare for right now. Okay? I'm saying that it's enhanced by stuff. I'm saying that it is man-made. This flaring that we're seeing, is the flare reflecting stuff? Is the sky changing so that more stuff is visible? Yeah, I don't know. I think so. I think that we've goofed around with the sky enough that some stuff is happening. Or it's totally for the betterment of man, and they're using this stuff as a big smoke screen so they can fly lasers on it and hide the Earth from the evil aliens that are going to hop into their ship and come this far. Right. All I got to say is if I were an alien, space alien, with great intelligence, and I could travel through outer space, would I really come in an old design of a ship that people have been looking at since we were all kids? I wouldn't come in no saucer disc. Lame. Super lame. I would just like appear here, right? You just teleport. Like, what? Why would you fly in an old ship? Just maybe like 100 years ago, or 100,000 years ago, or 1,000,000 years ago. That was probably like the old design of UFOs, if aliens and UFOs exist. All I can say is our Earth and the sky above us is opening up or changing, and I don't think it's changing for the better. And for that reason, I will continue sharing videos with you guys and examining the things that I see from an earthly perspective. I hope you guys weren't too bored and fell asleep during this video, and I'm sorry to drag it out so long, but thanks for watching, and you guys take care. Big hugs to all of you.